Okay.
Yep.
Episode 2. We have Mr. Abdulla Awadhi.
Right.
He is the owner of Dungeon Gym in
sir.
Dubai. I've first visited Dungeon Gym just this recent time when I came to Dubai. Went there, met Abdulla, and what an incredible gym it is. Like, we'll speak about the Dungeon Gym, but like, first of all, just to tell people, it's like old school, hardcore. And that's what we get back in the UK. A lot of the UK gyms are old school hardcore, where the gyms in Dubai are very kind of modern day. Like, it's very fancy, where when I stepped into Dungeon, it was different. So yeah, like I say, just tell us a little bit about yourself. You're the owner of Dungeon Gym. Are you kind of in any other businesses, etc.? What else are you doing apart from the Dungeon Gym, etc.?
Yeah. So, as Brad said, my name is Abdulla Awadhi. And I first started online coaching after I got certified, doing PT. As anyone else, I was an enthusiast into fitness. My background was playing soccer. Soccer wasn't a thing back in the US, so I had to switch to something else, which is another sport that makes someone look big, like the people back in Arizona and California. So I started doing bodybuilding and then slowly online coaching, learning. I was an engineer, which I really didn't like it. I'm a C student. But then my full effort was going into bodybuilding. And then from online coaching and from whatever I've invested in that, I made the Dungeon Gym. And then from whatever I use and believe all around and what I deploy with my athletes and other people and general clients, I'd like to translate it into business so that then I can both gain my passion and gain something behind it. Because life is all about getting it back. So what I believe in, I translate into business. So I believe more into the new school of bodybuilding, your macros, your calories and stuff. So I made a restaurant called If It Fits Your Macros. It's mainly for lifestyle people because bodybuilders tend to like going close to a show, maybe more cleaner food, higher volume, less calories. This is more for the general population. Very delicious food with kind of higher calories, moderate volume. So it suits majority of the population. And then I believe in certain brands, which I like to get it as a main distributor here in the UAE. So I had a logistic company with one of my partners, Hamad. And then that logistic company became a 2-in-1 company. So it's a logistic company where we have our cars and deliver other stuff all around the UAE. And it's an online store where we have a couple of brands where we franchise, like Pride Foods, Cream of Rice, which is one of the famous cream of rice back in the US. And then we used to have cookie dough, which is like a protein that you add water and becomes like a cookie. And then we do have My Cookie Dealer, which is owned by Juan Morel. You're familiar with that guy. And then we do have Professor Nuts. And then there are upcoming brands that on the way. We have a Loco, which is a very low calorie spread. But mainly it's getting exclusivity of brands that I feel like people can incorporate into their diet, into their prep, and just make life kind of easier.
Yeah. So it's all kind of within the same niche.
Within the same niche,
right?
Exactly,
You started with the gym, then you got the meal prep, and then you got kind of the supplements on the side. So it's all within the same niche.
Exactly.
But Dungeon Gym, when did you launch? When was the first kind of opening of Dungeon Gym? When did you start this?
So in Corona, everyone had to train at home. So I had to do a 50 square meter small building in the house. I won't call it a building, but anyways, so I did that and then had like a squat rack, which everyone had, and then a couple of dumbbells and one leg extension, one leg curl. And then I did one of my best gains in that place. And everyone, close friends who used to come to that gym at the Corona time where we had curfew and no one can go out. So neighbors and friends close by used to come. And then they used to tell me like, why not do a bigger one? Like, and then they called it the dungeon.
Yeah.
We call it in Arabic al-Kahf al-Aswad, like a black cave.
Yeah.
Because, the whole world was black, at that moment. And that was the only cave we can enjoy, like, training. So why not make a bigger one? And I always had those setbacks in mind where, like, building a gym is, like, expensive. I'm going to pay a lot of money. I need a bigger capital. But then by time going on, then I said, no, I have to do it. And then I was really inspired by the gyms in the UK. I was inspired mainly by Dorian Yates. His small, he used to call it Temple.
Yeah, Temple Gym.
Temple Gym back in Birmingham. Yeah, I visited that place. So I said I'm going to do the dungeon. It's close to Temple, dungeon, like same concept, where I'm going to get real bodybuilders. I want people who really love training. I don't want people who come there and just drag their tripods all the way, and just content creators. No, I want people who really put their hoodies down during Yates vibes. And then there the dungeon happened, and hopefully we can expand more and more. And I'm really proud that it is expanding more. We're doing seminars there. It's an academic gym, not only a bodybuilding gym. And going to, like, I travel every other week to shows in Europe and other countries, and we wear the dungeon and people recognize, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good progress.
That's starting to get known as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And like I say, like when I got in your gym, like I'm a big believer in, you know, like I love to train with free weights, but I can also appreciate good equipment. On the market these days, there's a hell of a lot of equipment from A to Z, but there's only certain bits that I truly believe on. And I always say, once you have trained on a good piece of equipment, you'll always be able to spot out a bad piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And like even going into Dungeon Gym, it's like very hand-picked. Everything that you've got's very, you know, direct. And just, you know, you've got the best of the best for each individual body part.
So people like, hey, do you want to franchise the dungeon? I'm like, you don't know the amount of effort I've put on getting each and every equipment. And most of them, they don't even do it. Like Flex is not there anymore on the market. So I have to like run around all Instagram retailers and see who's going to sell. And then people know that those equipments are appreciated by certain people who are willing to pay for it. Like, let me give you an example. The leg press Nebula. Like you would find the new leg press Nebula, which is Arsenal strength, but I would tend to go to the old one. Like this just gives me a dopamine seeing it there. So I got the Nebula leg press and then the hack squat leg press, hack squat Nebula. I nearly paid around 70 to 80,000 for this.
Wow.
But if you tell me, are you like regretting? No, not even 1%.
You like this?
Yeah, I love this. Yeah, I wish this place turns into a museum one day. So. Yeah.
So that's what I mean, like about expand or doing it. You can't even duplicate the pieces that you've got, so you couldn't expand it anyway.
Yeah, it's like hectic just to get one equipment all the way from the US or the UK and bring it here. There's certain equipments where I can still find modern equipment which biomechanically do the same job, but I'll still go with the old one because it just has another feeling. I feel like engineers are, something happened to them. Like they used to do good equipment back then with like heavy. You need just 2 plates to feel that stimulus. Now these days, it's like toys, bro.
You can put it.
You just stack the whole thing and you don't feel anything. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't wanna sound harsh to all new brands. However, getting just a one line of equipments for the gym doesn't work. You need to find like the best of each one.
Yeah. Like I say, a brand of equipment can have 1 or 2 good pieces.
Exactly.
But very rarely is a brand of equipment going to have A to Z, killing it across the board. They're going to downgrade in certain areas.
Yeah.
That's where you've picked out those 1 to 2 pieces on different brands, which in a gym point of view is absolutely not the best to budget a gym.
Exactly.
But you do it out of passion, right? Because most gyms will you walk in a gym, they've got all of one brand because they just go to that brand and get a huge deal, kit out the gym, job
100%,
done.
Yeah.
And I always say, like going back to what you said about the dungeon gym is, for any kind of even younger guy, a guy wanting to go in there and develop his physique, I'm a big believer kind of with my coaching aspect of the gym is a where you're going to meet a lot of people, right? Where you're going to get educated a lot, but you go there to train. Like you go there to train, and a lot of guys come to me being like, I train 7 days a week, I'm not making progress. You can get away with training 3, 4, 5 days a week if you actually go in there and make your time efficient when you go in there. Like I'm a big believer, what do you actually do when you go in the gym?
100%.
And that's why I feel like going into a gym like you are, like you've built, like teaches that mentality to go in, get your headphones on, get your hoodie on if that's what it takes, and just get to fucking work when you go in there.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I always say, like, whenever I go to a gym, am I there? Do I talk? Absolutely. Before I train, after I train, but when it's time to train, you have 60 minutes to get your head down and get after it. And I am a big believer, if you do that and teach yourself that mentality, that's where you're going to get massive.
And to me, like I've even like focused on, many people see it like small stuff, but for me, this makes a big difference. Like there's no music in the gym. Yeah, I have it for a reason, because I want you to just listen to metal plates and just be in your own zone. Being in your own zone, you can't understand it unless you're into a real working set. Like imagine Durin Yates doing his set. Like Durin used to say this a lot. He says, one working set, doing it to your max and failure is way better than doing 5-7 different exercises for one body part. So having no music, having that vibe of like a cozy vibe, a dark vibe, just gets you in that zone. And if you get in that aggression inner zone, you're getting the best out of it when it comes to like building muscle.
Yeah. Speaking about, training with intensity then, right? Because that's linked to training intensity. Training with intensity, you don't just go in there and try. You have to mentally teach yourself intensity, right? Like I say with a lot of people, like, and I know you work with clients as well. I'll be like, send me a video of your top working set. And I say that on purpose, top working set. And I get the video and I'll be like, was that your top working set? Yes. Zero. We need to work on intensity. That's not intense.
Yeah.
Like top working set should be clear. This is my top set. This is my final set.
Exactly.
And then I'm going to move on again.
Yeah, it's mainly that mental game pre going into the set. Because I see people like he talks to his friends like, hey, and then just jumps into the set like nothing happened. Like, oh no, this doesn't work. It's like yoga before set. You put your head down. You feel the moment. You believe that you're gonna do it, and then these stuff come by time, and these stuff you cannot measure by data and science. Like these stuff just comes like within the passion inside you of bodybuilding.
Yeah, and that's where I think when it comes to kind of maximizing training performance, is the mentality behind it.
100%.
It's always being mentally engaged of what you're doing. And a lot of the time when I go in the gym, and what I've started to do lately, and just because I'm so busy business-wise and my time management has to be on point, it's actually benefited my training. When I go in the gym, sometimes I'll set a 60-minute timer. I need to be done by 60 minutes. My workout needs to be done. All my sets need to be done. My top working sets. I need to hit my PBs. I need to do what I need to do in 60 minutes. There's no time to talk. Exactly. And they have been my best workouts I've ever had.
100%.
Like a lot of people think like for physique development, they need to spend hours in the gym. It needs to be a 2-3 hour job. Like for me, like I've always says, like I've got a short attention span as it is.
Yeah.
So when I go in the gym, if I'm there longer than 60 to 90 minutes, I lose focus anyway.
Yeah.
And I know if I've been in there longer than 60 to 90 minutes, I've probably spent some time talking or doing not what I'm supposed to do.
No,
and after that 90-minute mark, you always have to ask yourself, for the 60-minute mark, are you in there fully concentrated on what you're actually doing? Or are you just kind of moving your arms and moving reps for the sake of it just to try and add up to a number on a training program?
Yeah.
Would you agree?
100%. Like I've seen people train as if they're pumping up backstage.
Yeah.
It's totally different. Yeah. Pumping up backstage is just moving blood into the system, which people may use it as a main driver of building muscle. But no, you have to adapt your muscle to live in that environment, which it's not used to. So talking into working set and top set, that's why I've been into the full body thingy, because when it comes to full body, it teaches you that, it helps you to be mentally ready for that top set by saying to yourself, I only have this one movement for quads, and I'm going to execute it 100% because I know I have no other quad movements. I'm hopping up to hamstrings and then doing to another work set of chest or back. So when you tell yourself, like, today I had 24 hours, I slept, I drank, I'm ready to do this only 2 working set of just quads, then you're going to execute it. That's why full body is kind of going along with the people in the dungeon, my athletes and myself. But in the end, choose the split that really works the best for you. In bodybuilding, we always say adherence. We want consistency. You will get consistency if you get enjoyment behind something. So if you enjoy something and you want adherence, just do what you love.
Yeah.
Because even when it comes to the science behind building muscle, every single day we hear a different story. Each and every researcher just speaks out differently. Someone says high volume, someone says high frequency or whatever. But then in the end, they all agree on having adherence, having consistency. And what drives the consistency? Enjoying your workout.
Exactly.
So do whatever you enjoy, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of people, and I just did a post on this the other day, like a lot of people feel like there's only one style of training. You have to do this only style. And even if they hate it, they still do that only style. Yeah. You're not going to continue to do
100%,
something.
you won't continue.
Even if I even believed there was a slightly different style that would make me grow better, make me look better, but I wouldn't be able to bodybuild as long, you're going to be better doing it in the longevity game of doing something a little bit more enjoyable. Even if that's 60-minute workouts and you don't really want to do the 90, keep doing the 60. Because if you do the 60 for more time, you're going to end up
100.
looking at the better run.
I know that stiff deadlifts are not the most optimal exercise for growing my hamstring, and my hamstring are weak points.
Yes.
And I still do it because I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't think they're the most. They're kind of very glute dominant, lower back focused than what you're actually getting from the hamstring.
And even the stimulus fatigue ratio is like way higher than doing like a, let's say, hyperextension with the way like you just focus on hamstring. But if you love something, do it.
Yeah. What would you say are the biggest hamstring building movements when let's talk about like building hamstrings? What would you say is the biggest kind of, or the top 3 exercises for building hamstrings?
I would say going into the movement more than the exercise itself. So lengthening position and then the shortening position. For me, I would go in the shortening position to a seated hamstring curl where you can like fully shorten the hamstring muscle belly, and then in the lengthening position, I would go with the hyperextension wide bar grip, where you can neglect your lat being as a concentric eccentric movement, and then just focusing on putting your chin down on your chest, and then all the movement from your hamstring and glutes. Plus the good thing about hyperextension, it really forces you to keep your knees locked, where hamstrings is like super extended and lengthened at that position. So for me, I would say that is the best in terms of lengthening position for hamstring, and then the shortening is the seat. Yeah.
And I always kind of view the hamstring like a bicep as well, right?
Exactly.
Looks very similar to a bicep. So that's ultimately, at the end of the day, like if you get great enjoyment, you're going to build a lot of lower back glute thickness from doing the heavy RDLs. Yeah. But in terms of direct hamstring, I always say to people, like when it comes to growing biceps, you wouldn't throw a 50 kilogram dumbbell up and try and curl it.
Exactly.
Right? So you know it's like, and it works very similar.
Yeah.
In that's what I always believe with hamstrings. A lot of people you'll find when they do like a side chest shot with a hamstring, they have a great upper hamstring to glute tie in, but they have no length.
It touches the calves too, like it's crazy. Yeah.
And I always think to kind of get that drop of the hamstring and develop the lower hamstring, you need to work on the more stretching part of the movement.
Exactly.
Like it kind of, like even my kind of RDL version is a lot lighter and just going all the way down the stretch, but kind of staying within that constant tension range, like literally only coming up to my knee and back down again, just working the stretch.
And sometimes doing it on a deficit, like standing on some,
so you can reach further.
Reach further, 100%. Yeah, I do agree. That's why I'm saying always focus on movement. Don't focus on a certain exercise, because you won't be able to do the same exercise if you go somewhere else. So, but if you know the movement itself, then you can do it wherever you are. Even like, let's say you're traveling for some, I don't know, vacation, and then you can go to any gym or the hotel gym, and then you can start practicing the same movement by doing whatever you want. So for hamstring, I would say that's one of the best. But even going back to saying that training is a very infant part of bodybuilding, like still researchers are trying to find what's the most optimal. We can apply it, but it's anecdotal, but we can apply it to a lot of bodybuilders who literally like smash biomechanic on the side and literally do a bad range of motion. You can't see any controlling on the weight, and still have one of the best hamstring in the game. So then we could say genetics number one, and then we can just start debating on everything else. But so that's why I'm saying do whatever you love, because then if you love something, you just keep doing it forever, you know. Like everyone argues like Branch doesn't train for range of motion, but Branch trains to a certain intensity where range of motion and other stuff really don't matter.
No,
because number one, he's genetic in terms of building muscle. Number two, the intensity that he applies on his muscle, it's just forcing it to grow. That's why I'm saying intensity comes first.
Intensity comes first. Intensity. And I will say, a lot of people, I know from the UK as well, a lot of people first get into bodybuilding. They first kind of train and they start just building their physique, and they're doing the most advanced techniques you can ever find. And it's like, I will say you have to, like before you start doing all the fancy movements for back, to develop certain parts of your back, you need to build the back.
Exactly.
Without building the back, you can't do the fancy movements for back.
You have nothing at start.
And the guy you're watching do these fancy movements is because he's trying. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I find them a lot at the gym, by the way. And I used to trigger them a lot. But then, I used to do this one day. And then the more you mature in the sport, the more you get to know. Actually, something I would say, the more you mature in this sport, the more you go back old school. The more the sport gets advanced, the more you go backwards. Like going back to basics.
Don't you always find as well? Like I started out when I was 16. By the time I was 18, I thought I knew everything. Like I thought there's no one who can ever tell me how to train. I know how to grow muscle. I know, but actually, the older I've got, and the more I've looked into it, that actually you find out the less you actually know.
100%.
And the less you know all the time, the more I'm learning all the time. And I'm actually, like you said, I'm actually going back to like the real basics. Like I always said, I always used to chase like a progressive overload style a lot, which is great. It's science of how to build muscle. But chasing that weight all the time was the thing that was getting me injured a lot. So then I had to start to adapt to different approaches, different styles, looking at more time under intensity, looking at more higher volume than just how much weight can I get on the bar today.
Exactly. And then some people, because bodybuilding is a very multifactorial sport, it's very hard to point out at a certain thing and said, oh, hey, I progressed because of this. Like some people start applying progressive overloading and then they get results and they say, I got a result because I did progressive overloading. No, let's look at the bigger picture. At this off season where you did a progressive overload, or let's say resistant overload, you started adding more androgens, you started sleeping better, you started getting your diet on track. So everything played a role to get you better. So you really can't point out at one thing. It's like when it comes to anabolics, he's like, hey, when I used insulin, I became this big. No, it's not just because of insulin, because you've been doing this for another 4 or 5 years, and then you've been taking your diet into consideration, you're taking your cardio into so it all plays a role. Like you really can't point out. But then if you just keep zooming out, you see that I progressed because I've been training for a good 2 or 3 years. Okay, now that's consistency.
Yeah, that's a great saying I use is like all the chains need to be linked in order for the wheel to go round.
Exactly.
And then when the wheel's going round, you're like, it's because I did this thing. Yeah. It's because everything's starting to link and everything's starting to get
exactly, yeah.
And that's where I believe, massively the bottom of that chain is the nutrition, right? You need to get the nutrition nailed. The nutrition's going to help with your training. The training's going to, build the physique, and then everything's going to do that. So, nutrition, training, recovery, building muscle, everything comes, but it all starts with the nutrition.
100%. Yeah.
Great thing, I was like, you can train as hard as you want. You can go in the gym, kill yourself 7 days a week.
And you can't work a diet.
Right? But if you can't work a diet, you're not going to be able to build any muscle because there's a great saying, the muscle is not built in the gym, it's what you do after the gym.
Yeah.
And that's one topic that I want to get onto about, is because I feel like a lot of people get in the gym now, and when they leave the gym, they just waltz out the gym, they waltz home, they don't know what they eat, they don't know really why they had the shake post-workout, they don't know what the next meal is, they don't know what they're doing that evening, they wake up, they eat some random meals again during the day, they turn up at the gym and they repeat the process. And it's just like the progress is just going round and around about. They have no vision, they have no approach, they don't know really what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's, sometimes it's annoying to see, because here's what I say to people, like, you're eating in the day, you're putting the time in to go to the gym, you're sacrificing that time to go to the gym, you're putting a lot of effort in when you go to the gym, a lot of people, you're just minimizing results because you've got no actual approach to your day, or reason behind your day. And that's what a lot of things, like, you correct some people's approach, their programming, their nutrition, and just bang. Yeah. It's already what they were doing. They're already doing it.
Exactly, just manipulating it, yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of people feel like they need to, like, to build a great physique, I'm going to have to change so much, sacrifice so much. A lot of people are saying, you're already doing what you need to do to build a good physique. We just need to start doing it a little bit better.
Yeah.
And you actually probably start doing it less than what you
Exactly,
can do.
exactly. Sometimes you need to do less, yeah. I strongly believe in that, yeah. Doing it smartly is always better than doing it, like, all out.
Yeah. Let's speak about, kind of any sort of, like, younger guys wanting to get into the bodybuilding game, build a physique to get on stage, whether it might be men's physique, classic bodybuilding, whatever. Kind of, what would kind of your overall advice to be of how to go about kind of, with your nutrition, of how to build up and eventually reach the bodybuilding stage?
Yeah, so for me, because I love bodybuilding, first question I ask then any newcomer, I'm like, what are you trying to do?
Yep.
What are you trying to get out of this? If he has no vision, then I'm telling him, bro, I have to be realistic with you. You are not made for this.
Yep.
And then if, let's say he has a vision and he says, hey, I want to stand on stage. I'm like, okay, let's take your shirt off. And how many years have you been training? 4 or 5 years. Okay, you've been on stuff. Okay, that's good. Let's look at you. Sometimes looking at someone, you can tell he is not made for bodybuilding. And then I have to be very realistic. I'm like, listen, bro, you are going to waste your time. If you think you're going to step on stage giving 110%, there's another genetic freak guy who's going to give 10% and kick your ass. So you have to have this in mind, okay? If he is fine with that, then I'm fine with it. Second thing, I don't coach physique athletes because they are not bodybuilders. That's for sure. It's a category that they came out for easy people who want the easy path to stand on stage. So I really don't believe in that category, and I wish it can disappear as soon as possible because it's wasting people's health and time for nothing. The third thing is, if I find someone with a good structure, I am going to advise him to stand on stage. I would tell him, bro, listen, you have everything ready there. I have 2 things I can control, your body fat, your lean body mass, how much muscle I can add, how much, and you have the structure. It's from God, which is something we cannot do it as a human. Yes, we can go to whatever you want to do in terms of bodybuilding. Just put in mind that you will be sacrificing money, you'll be sacrificing some social life, that's fine, he's fine. Then we can start. But I have to give him a lot of disclaimers before he jumps in, because it's not a trend, bodybuilding. You have to change a lot. You have to sacrifice a lot. It's not easy. And comparing yourself to someone else that did it the easier way doesn't mean it has to be applied to you. So giving those disclaimers first, no physique athletes, you're going to waste money and health and wealth, that's for sure. There's no safe approach to bodybuilding. And then if he's fine with that, and I see potential in this guy, I'm going to support him. It's going to be a teamwork, and we can stand on stage.
Yeah, I love that. And what you said there, like, and this is my approach as well. And sometimes people can take it the wrong way, and it's not the right way. It's only for your benefit and to see what actually you're about. If you approach me in the gym, or if you approach me online or anything, you say, I want to be a bodybuilder, how do I go about it? The first question I'll ask is why? Why do you want to be a bodybuilder? Or even if I want to lose weight, I want to build muscle, why? Why do you want to lose weight? Why do you want to build muscle? Why do you want to be a bodybuilder? What is your why behind it? If it's always for other people, it's not for you. You're not going to stick to it for other people. If it's for your reason, because you want to do it. I never got in bodybuilding for anybody. I did bodybuilding for me. If I was training on my own in the garage, if I was the only guy in the gym, I'm there. I still turn up. I still turn up now. I'm not competing now. I still train every day. It's for me. It's for how I mentally feel, how I physically feel, and what it gives back.
And this you see, like with retired bodybuilders, and they still follow a bodybuilding protocol. Like Milos Sarcev, he still follows a bodybuilding protocol, or even though he doesn't compete. Okay, yes, he is like setting an example for his athletes, but he's used to this. He will do it forever, regardless competing or not. So Flex Lewis, the same thing. Like you find a lot of bodybuilders who are already retired, they still keep doing it, and you will keep doing it forever because you love it. You
have that structure. Have that structure all the time.
You cannot change it. Sometimes I feel like, oh, maybe I'm gonna try something new. Let's try some fitness. Let's become more. It's very hard. It's very hard.
We go back to what you're doing again. And I always think, what you said there about kind of sacrificing. What you do. There is a big sacrifice part to bodybuilding. 100%. Especially if you want to step on stage.
Competitive.
Like it does. A lot of people want to be a great bodybuilder, still have a great social life, and do everything else and build a great physique. And ultimately, it's not going to happen if you want to be a great competitive bodybuilder. 100%. And I sacrificed a massive social time of my kind of teens, where my friends would go out, etc. And I would be the guy, eating my meals on my own, going to the gym. But I always feel like I got a greater achievement than doing that short-term satisfaction of let's go out for a night.
And probably it translates into your business life too. From being committed in bodybuilding, having your meals time managed. When you become bigger and more mature and everything, you start even doing your business right. You're doing other stuff very correctly because you've built that whole agenda of how to set your time and schedule your time. Like it applies to everything in life. That's why I'm a big fan of this sport because of this thing, because it applies in everything in life. It makes your life very settled.
100%.
I find a lot of bodybuilders, even in their social life with their wives and kids, like they have their own thing. Like you barely can find any fighting happening or like social life being. Okay, you may find, yes, but I'm saying in general, because his life is very managed, everything else is managed.
Bodybuilding was the greatest teacher in my life. Taught me discipline, taught me hard work, taught me how to overcome setbacks, taught me you get out what you put in, and that applies for everything. Business, life, setbacks that you get. You can go to the gym, you can have that outsource, where you can put your headphones on, get into a different zone. And like I say, building the physique, I always say to me, which normally surprises people, building the physique to me is secondary. I get so many benefits from bodybuilding of what it gives me mentally and what it does for me as a person and teaches me a person. Having a good physique is just a reward of my hard work, of putting in work and being disciplined and being consistent. Like it's secondary for me.
I agree on that, 100%. We can talk about bodybuilding until tomorrow.
But it's, like a lot of people, I just think it's all just appearance, me, like doing it for everyone else, doing it to try and get big on social media.
Because appearance is very short term. It's going to vanish one day. But if you do it not for appearance, then... Like for me now, I'm not competing. But I love training. So and no one can take it out of me. So I'll still keep training and not competing and still keep me in that good mental zone to watch for my athletes, travel with them, keep my other stuff on check.
I don't know your opinion on this, we'll get it, but like I'm also a big believer in, a lot of people talk about genetics.
Yeah.
Number one, yes, you can spot genetics if someone takes their top off and have good structure, right?
Yeah.
Before even 15, I wasn't training, but you could see roughly I was ripped. I had good shoulders, I had everything. But I also a believer in, you do not know your genetic potential until you actually start to put yourself to work. Until you actually start to
Nick Walker as an example.
I was literally just
Nick didn't have the best structure, but because he went through it, he still doesn't have the best structure, by the way. But he knew that he is genetically gifted in adding muscle tissue. We can apply this to Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler didn't have the most aesthetic physique, but he was a genetic freak when it came to building muscle. Like I remember saying Jay Cutler in the first year, he added 35, 40 pounds of muscle. So this is also part of being genetically freak, like adding muscle is not easy. People can get ripped, okay, that's okay, because burning fat or losing fat is easier than building muscle. But building muscle is not easy. Building muscle and telling your body to really hold up on that amount of stress and being healthy, that's another part of being genetically gifted.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember Chad Nichols talking about Big Ramy, saying Big Ramy in his panic mode where everything there. You know it, you're with Chad. So even at that time, Ramy's health markers were
perfect
on check. That's genetics. Yeah. Genetic doesn't just come to structure. Yes, structure is the main thing when I come to see a physique, because it's going to take you all the way to being a pro or even competing in a good state with pros. But also, even as you said, going into the process and then seeing how body is just keeping adding muscle, that's another part. Seeing how body with those stressors are still having good health markers. Mm-hmm. People take just testosterone and everything is off the chart. So that's another thing that we have to consider when it comes to being genetic.
Yeah. And it's until you start to kind of, like we mentioned, get all those chains in link, that's when you really start to unfold of what you can actually start to build and start to build muscle. Like you probably as well, like I've worked with people who literally tell me they've been training for 7 years and they can't build any muscle. The biggest thing is a lot of people think they need the top genetics just to build muscle.
No.
Anyone can build muscle. You're talking about the genetic elite of elite to get to that stage of that amount of muscle and that amount of shape.
Yeah.
Your average Joe, like anyone, can still build a good, well physique. We're talking about stepping on an Olympia stage at a bodybuilder.
Yes.
Two completely different things.
Exactly. And I wouldn't see anyone sacrifice. That's a purely down to my opinion. I don't see sacrificing your money and your health and all other stuff just to be in a first call out in a pro qualifier. That's for me is still not convincing.
No.
You either there to sacrifice all of these, be a pro and make it a career, or for me it's not convincing to step on stage.
Yeah.
But we still find 300 people stepping on stage each and every weekend and every show.
Exactly. But I've always had that mentality. Like, it doesn't matter who I'm competing versus, it doesn't matter if I go for pro or anything. I'm there to win. If I don't win, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
And that is only because what I apply and what I put in.
Yeah.
And that's the same with everything. Like, you got to shoot for the top.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people, like, you're just there to compete. And, they're there to warm up. You heard of that one? They do the warm-up shows.
Yeah, the warm-up shows, the novice shows.
They do the warm-ups.
The
warm-ups for the warm-up, and then they might do the real show, even though they're all real shows, but they're doing the warm-ups.
It never shows up, the real show. Never shows up.
So it's that's common. If you actually missed the mark, it was warm-up, right? If you missed the mark and you looked like shit, it was the warm-up
There's
show.
another thing now. It's not warm-up. It's like, we got 70% of our physique. Let's see how when we get 100%. And we never see 100%. That was your 100%.
And then they go back to 60.
Yeah. Exactly.
Then they soon realize that was their version of 100.
100%.
This is bodybuilding.
Yeah, this is bodybuilding.
Yeah. Like, so the whole competing scene is, and what you said about men's physique is interesting, because I have an opinion on this. Now, when it comes to men's physique, a lot of men's physique people are just small bodybuilders. When you get a men's physique guy who's got that like dynamite of a small waist, super wide delts, majority of the amateurs don't even have this.
Exactly.
So you're not men's physique regardless. You're a small bodybuilder who needs more time to actually build muscle. Then you can decide if you're classic. A lot of people are in the classic class. You don't a classic bodybuilder. You don't have classic lines.
Yes.
There's nothing classic about you.
Thank you.
You're just a small bodybuilder. You need more time to get to a bodybuilding class.
Yes.
Like, it's a lot of people, I'm like, what do you compete in men's physique? They don't even know why. They just feel like they just fit into that class. Yeah. That class has a very unique look. classic has a very unique look. You need to find your look. Like it's, you know what I mean? It's
100%. And I kind of bit blame the judges when it comes to this, because I've seen, especially classic, I've seen a lot of guys that really look like a smaller bodybuilder, like a wide waist. He has zero art when it comes to his posing. You just feel he doesn't have. You know when someone steps on stage and poses like a bodybuilder wearing a classic trunk? You saw that on stage, yeah? He just went to classic because he made it weight in classic. And because he has that good amount of muscle on his frame, he kind of looks overwhelming compared to other guys, and he gets rewarded. And I don't see this should be applied when it comes to classic. You should apply it by the classic criteria.
Yeah.
He has to have a small waist, unless he like delusionally plays with his posing. That's another good thing about him. But in general, because he has more muscles and he looks overwhelming on stage, doesn't mean he deserves it. And it happened the same in physique. Like, you find people like, I remember going to a show like 3 years ago, and that was like 80 kgs. I write 80 kgs, men's bodybuilding or classic or whatever. The guy next to me, 110 kgs, men's physique. I'm like, 110 kgs in upper body only. That's crazy amount of muscle. And then I'm like, but why? And then he looks overwhelming on stage. And even if you don't want to look at him because he doesn't have that physique attributes, but your eyes will still go back to him. He's the biggest one. Because we all go back to the roots. Bodybuilding, he has the most muscle on his frame. So that's the issue when it comes to categories. Like, judging is not very straight when it comes to choosing who's the winner. And then the athletes just hopping regardless how they look in any category, and it will just hit with them, you know.
Symmetry in bodybuilding as well. Symmetry, like a lot of people, like so many people go on, bodybuilding's all about symmetry.
Yeah.
Physique development in general is all about illusion.
Yeah.
Like, you can get a guy who looks bigger than what the amount of muscle he actually has.
Yeah.
You can get a guy who's got way more muscle than you, but you look way better, more aesthetically pleasing. I would say, like, bodybuilding in general, physique development is just an illusion to a human eye.
100%.
Right? It's not about how much direct muscle you have, not about how much you weigh. It's just how you display yourself. And that's what I feel like a lot of guys who go on stage these days, or a lot of guys who just building a physique, like, they've got such overpowering body parts. All they do is make themselves look smaller in other areas. Like, even when I started to build my physique, like, I'll still now, I have not got no genetic crazy body part. You know, when someone, they've just got the most wildest arms you've ever seen, but then the delts look terrible. The delts aren't even terrible. The arms just far too overpowering for the delt.
Yeah.
And like, it's the more you can kind of balance your body like that from top to bottom, they're actually bigger and more impressive you're going to look.
Like Muhammad Makawi, he was like twice runner-up to Lee Haney.
Yeah.
He was what on stage? 160, maybe less.
Yeah.
And bro, this guy looks, in photos he looks big.
Yeah.
But he's a very small guy, and you can tell when like Lee Haney took him up on his shoulders when Lee Haney won. He was like a small child, you know.
Yeah.
But because the way he posed and the way he added muscle in certain body parts, he was so balanced. He looked crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have athletes which I post their pictures and say bodybuilding under 70. People are like, what? Under 70?
Yeah.
Like, he looks like 90. He looks like 90 because muscles are added in the right places, and the whole physique is like came in together very well, where he looks big but he's not actually big.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is bodybuilding. He is made for. I would say this guy is made for bodybuilding. When you really look big, like Edward, after the show, he got third in his 212, and the judge said if he does any other show, he will win easily. The guy is flawless and this and that. But you know what? He just barely made weight. I'm like, barely made weight? Did you just make this up? Because he stood on the scale 95 kgs with clothes on. He has another 1.2 kgs to add. Plus, this whole prep, I was just focusing on keeping him full as much as possible, feeding him every other day. Minimal carbs went down to 350 grams. Zero formal cardio, just steps. And the guy looked at 95 kg. I could have pushed him to 92 easily.
Yeah.
How did you make that assumption? Just because he looked taller and bigger doesn't say that he is very close to 212. No. Yeah. Because he is very tapered, like, and the way he is built, and I feel like his bone density is like just nothing. He looks big doesn't mean that he looked bigger to you because you saw him big, but he's not that actually big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's down to a lot of people. I always say a lot of people dictate their emotion to weight on the scales.
Yeah.
Like of what their scales say, it's like instant mindset change of how they instantly feel, their emotion towards everything. At the end of the day, the scale is just a number and it proves it.
Yeah.
Like you can get someone at 95 kg and you can get person B at 95 kg. It's night and day difference of how they look.
100%.
In terms of how their structure is, their body fat levels, their water retention levels, their muscle mass levels. It's night and day difference. Like the scale weight, yes, it gives you some sort of indication of how things are going.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely not a way to kind of decide,
100%.
dictate of how a physique should
And
look.
even competitive bodybuilders, sometimes they just want to push weight so down and reach a point where their physique is not appealing anymore. Just to say, I want to do light heavyweight bodybuilding. Oh, it's an easier lineup. No, don't do that. Once you push your body and get that fullness and roundness in your body, you look way better. Although you'll be with super heavies, but you will look way better. Then just keep doing what looks best on you. Yeah, people start looking at scale a lot. Even bodybuilders, not only lifestyle people. Bodybuilders look at it a lot.
But you even get this in the off season. Like in the off season, so like since January, you know, what happened back in January, you know, with kind of the surgery.
Yeah,
I've dropped 12, 13 kilograms the other day. I was in the gym. A guy comes in the gym and he was like, "Whoa, how much size have you put on?" I says, "I'm 13 kilograms down." And I think that's a big thing. When you come to diet, you look bigger.
Yeah,
like you always look bigger. And that's what I said. Like it's bodybuilding or physique development is an illusion to the human eye of when you can visually see more muscle mass, less water, less body fat, more shape, more true muscle. That always makes you look bigger all the time. So like technically, the lighter I get in a prep or in a diet, the bigger and bigger I start to look because the more I can fill out all the time.
I remember my friend Nasser Sayed telling me backstage in Olympia, Kamal with shirt on, he looks like one of those organizers of Olympia. He doesn't look like he's gonna compete, but the moment he takes his shirt off, bro, he's skinless. Like I've heard people saying that he is see-through. From the amount of maturity he has in his muscles. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about no matter how small you look actually in real life, but if you take your shirt off and hit that pose, you look like an open bodybuilder. Yeah.
And that's a good one, you know, talking about like kind of how lean the condition to step on stage.
Yeah.
I always say like to people, like when they're on the contest prep, you don't know what true condition is until you stand next to someone in true condition.
Yeah.
This guy can look shredded in the gym. I hope he looks shredded in the gym because there's no one else should be shredded in the gym when you're going to be doing a contest prep.
Exactly.
So when you're training next to your friends in a vest, you should look pretty good because you're about to compete. But you don't know how good your condition is until you stand next to someone in true condition.
Exactly.
And that's why I always think the stage. And that also like comes down to people. I think a lot of people are scared to push down when it comes to going on stage in case they look flat.
Yeah.
Like in case they look flat. So then they go on slightly bigger, slightly waterier, and you know what image that gives on stage. You just look soft. You physically look fat, which is weird and something to speak about because when you hold water retention on a bodybuilding look, it actually makes you look fat because you're holding that water retention.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. Because in the end, like fats is a soft tissue and muscle is a hard tissue. So having like a layer of sub-Q water and then a layer of fat because you didn't come in like zero fat on stage, you will feel like you're the biggest pumping up backstage. I feel the biggest, but when it comes to seeing the real photos of the NPC one they post, like, shit, I look really small. You did look really small. You were not conditioned. And I always say people misunderstand or misestimate or underestimate how much low in body fat you have to go to be, as they say, zero fat. Because sometimes, okay, let's use. I'm going to use examples so people can kind of understand more. Like Derek Lansford, he's one of million elite bodybuilders that are kind of the same. Derek posts a picture in his peak off season with abs and glute head touching the hamstring and lines and quads. Not a lot of lines, but a very, very, very decent body fat, which people compete in. And then he says, "I'm 7 months out of Olympia." But 7 months out of Olympia, and then from that point, he loses another 40 pounds to be zero fat. See how much you need to lose in terms of being zero fat. So don't tell me, hey, I'm going to prep for 12 weeks. There's no such thing, I'm going to prep for 12 weeks. Okay, it depends on your status at that time. But if you really want to go to that point where you are like Munzer condition, you have to have a longer prep, a bigger time frame, and just keep smashing, rebuilding, rebuilding, and then mocking each and every rebuild, see how the body is in terms of fullness and condition. And then you can get the best out of it when it comes to stage. being stage ready.
Quality of muscle building phases, something I'm massive on. I don't know about you, but you know, a lot of kind of guys I work with, you got to be building with quality, and you take the patience to build with quality. You're always going to get rewarded. I know I'm a great believer in, you know, someone will tell me that, you know, I've gained 10 kilos in the last, you know, 5 weeks.
It's not cool.
Right?
Yeah.
It's impossible you've gained 10 kilos of muscle. And if you've actually probably a very small majority of that even is muscle.
Exactly.
What have we actually gained in this time?
Exactly.
And then guys have like pushing up like 30, 40 kilos.
Yeah.
And to me, all you're doing is just going to give yourself a harder diet phase.
Yeah.
To me, as long as if you're in some sort of, you know, surplus and you're there, and like, I'm a great believer, you know, in any kind of like gaining phases, as long as, you know, performance of training is going well, recovery is going well, the body is progressing, you know, and until that stalls, then you start to look at the main driving force and the main fuel behind the workouts, which is your nutrition.
Yeah.
And then you move up the nutrition, it moves up the workouts, and everything starts to move that way. Like so many people like want to literally just go from 0 to 100. Like they start off on a low calorie, they put the calories through the roof again, they get fat, they put the calories through the roof again, they get fat again. In 9 weeks down the line, they're ready for a mini cut.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe in mini cuts that much. I believe if you gain properly,
Yes.
you shouldn't need mini cuts.
100%.
I did a 12-month push phase. I did one pullback, and it wasn't because I got fat. It was because of an appetite. You know, I lost my appetite eventually. Pulled back, regained my appetite, pushed up again.
Yeah.
I just truly believe if you have the right structure, if you have the right food, like a lot of people are pushing calories high, but again, they're not even training with intensity. If your calories are high, you got to be seriously putting that food to work.
Yeah.
Like seriously putting that food to work. Like you don't need that much food.
It's all periodization. Like if, as you said before, if you want the wheel to turn around, you have to push everything all together. So if I'm gonna push calories up, I have to push androgens up. I have to push more expenditure up. So everything goes together up, and then you're gonna take a step back to take 2 steps ahead. If, like as you said, appetite was triggered, and then you have to like push food back, get your appetite back, maybe pull back on androgens because maybe I don't know, your liver is getting whatever. So enzymes are getting high, your appetite is getting bad. So maybe then you have to refix and then push back again. But I always say you have to give your body the best environment to build muscle, and getting the best environment to build muscle is by having a decent body fat in an off season, and doing your cardio for your heart health. So the best gains that I've made with my athletes and myself is the off seasons where body fat was somewhere, if I'm going to use numbers, around 14 to 16. Anything beyond that just gave us bad glucose levels, not the best shifting of nutrients to muscle, bad blood pressure, body was not recovering well, sleep was not going well, everything was not. And you can always hear bodybuilders say this, in 8 weeks out, I feel my best and I train my best. Because you're in the best body fat and the best environment of building muscle and performance and recovery and everything. So that's why I say that 8 week out phase, you can keep it consistently in an off season, pushing androgens, pushing performance, pushing all the way up.
And you know, it's because the body's responsive then.
And
I don't know your take on it. When I go to the gym, when I train, does one if it's off, like mainly off season, I want to feel good. I want to feel pumped. When you're pumped, I look big. It's bodybuilding. That's what it's about. It's about looking good. It's
exactly.
like people be like, I don't get a single pump in the gym, but I'm lifting this weight. I don't care. Like I don't care. Like I don't care what I lift, to be honest with you. I care if I look good because I'm a bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is about looking good. It's like when I go to the gym, if I have no insulin kind of sensitivity there anymore and I'm losing my pumps, I know I need to do something about it. And like this full off season, wherever I pushed, even when I was 285 pounds, I still went to the gym. I was maxed pump every single time. I just feel like sometimes guys these days just kill their insulin sensitivity. You know, they go in the gym, they're not even achieving big pumps. They just, as long as if they mark their books and they hit a number, it's okay. But
they will only notice when they start dieting down. They'll notice. And plus, most of people say, oh, we want to approach bodybuilding from the healthier perspective. Body composition always indicates your health markers. It's not the amount of androgens you use, it's not the amount of performance and stress you apply on your body. The amount of muscle and fats when you have on your body really gets bad when you see your blood work. So I don't see, and you always say, I want to be a healthy bodybuilder, I want to be a healthy bodybuilder. Being a healthy bodybuilder meaning having a decent body fat.
Of course.
Pushing body fat towards like the Lee Priest kind of stereotype of off season. This will just ruin everything.
I push my body fat up and I can't tell you how much different I feel now. Because I will say when you're leaner, you're fitter. What happens when you're fitter? You can train harder.
Yes, exactly.
What happens when you train harder? You can build more muscle.
Yeah.
You can eat better. You got a better appetite. You got a better metabolism. It's all factors to build a better physique.
Yeah.
So getting fat is just not the answer.
And yes, not being super shredded because it's not sustainable. You have to find that sweet spot.
You've got to find the sweet spot.
Yeah,
of being able to do it.
Of being able to do it for a good 6 to 8 to 10 months, because off season is not. Don't tell me you did a 3-month off season unless you're like, I don't know, the Samson Dowd or something. Yeah.
And no, what one last thing I want to speak about just before we wrap it up is, getting into kind of starting bodybuilding, like getting into start, like something I always say. People always wait until they got all the ducks lined up in order to begin something.
Yeah.
I will say there's never going to be the perfect time.
100%.
Never, ever going to be the perfect time. Like everyone waits until they got everything in line. When I started bodybuilding, there was nothing in line. I just literally started. It says, tomorrow I'm starting. And that's the best thing that you can do. Yeah. And I also think another big thing, people wait for the motivation to start. Yeah. I always say the motivation will never come to start. You need to learn yourself discipline to start. Yeah. And a great saying that I always say is, you got to learn the discipline, which will then get you a result. The result is then going to get you the motivation. Exactly. The motivation is then going to get you the transformation to then jump on with your journey and progress.
100%. I strongly believe in that. And I can apply this also to lifestyle people who say, hey, I want to diet down. I never throw them into a deficit. So what I do in the beginning, I was like, hey, listen, let's change small habits in your life. Let's not do it 100%. Let's do it 10%. You eat junk food? Yeah, I eat junk food. How many times? 5 times a day? Okay, let's do it 2 times a day. And then slowly, let's not do it 2 times a day. Let's do it twice a week only. And then you take it step by step until he gets into that zone and does it by himself.
I did this. Just speaking on the weight loss before we wrap it up. I had a big weight loss client company. He's lost about 80 pounds now.
Wow.
Right, he's lost about 80 pounds. He originally came to me saying every coach he went to, they give him like a bodybuilding prep diet. They're never going to sustain it.
No.
Never going to sustain it.
That's a good communication of a coach. Like I appreciate that.
And this guy came to me. He was eating, I believe, something like 14, 16 junk foods a week, takeout foods a week.
Yeah.
And I says, do you think that you could eat 12? He was like, yeah, of course. I says, great, well, we're going to start eating 12. Okay. He was like, no way. I was like, you can draw body fat, believe me.
Yeah.
And then after we did that for about 4 weeks, he was like, when are we going to have to cut out the meals? I says, now do you think you can eat 10?
Yeah.
We ate 10. Now we ate 8. Now we ate 6. Now we eat 4. And now we're still eating 4 meals and 4 cheap meals a week. Eat whatever you want, McDonald's, KFC, whatever you want. This guy's dropped 80 pounds. Yeah. A lot of people feel like they need to go literally in a complete
start counting calories, start counting your volume. No. Take it step by step. Especially with these guys. I always say, really, let's wrap it up with. I always say a best coach or a good coach comes down to communication. Mm-hmm. If you really know how to communicate and design a protocol that suits that certain person that can make him sustain it forever, that's a good coach. Because no matter how much knowledge you have, no matter how much experience you have, if you don't know how to communicate with the athlete, which Hani Rambod is very famous for, knowing how to communicate with the athletes. I'm sure he communicates with Hadi different than Derek, than Chris Bumstead. So knowing how to communicate and designing that protocol around his whole life,
knowing that person.
Yeah, I would say that's a good coach.
You got to know the person. It's not about following the plan. You got to know.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to know. I've got to see. You got to know the buttons to press with that person as well.
Exactly.
Because everyone's going to run to a brick wall.
100%. Yeah, we're not robots.
No robots. No. Even though we might to think in bodybuilding. Yeah. No, great.
Thank you.
Abdulla, nice to have you,
brother. Thank you so much.
Great. Honestly, I love the Dungeon Gym. Love what you're doing.
Sure.
And it's a pleasure to have you on. All right, guys. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to leave a like, leave a comment. I'll leave Abdullah's description of his Instagram and things in the comment section.
Thank you.
And like I say, see you guys in the next one.
Thank you, brother.